Howdy ho, Andrew aka Calfier here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another edition of Sunday Gaming Videos. This week we're going to take a step away from the games and go into entertainment because ding dong, the witch is dead. Wheel of Time was cancelled. Aww. Hey all, just a quick mention here. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on the videos you like. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, which helps me. Takes 2 seconds. So thanks in advance. So as you can tell, I'm not heartbroken by this. I'm not heartbroken at all. I am a massive Wheel of Time fan. I have all the books in hardcover. And I have all the books on audiobook. And I listen to the audio. I've read the hardcover books probably 15 times from front to end. And every year I listen to the entire series of the audiobooks. It is my favorite fantasy book series of all time. And for decades, I wanted it done in live action. But I wanted the books. That's what I want. I love the characters. I love the writing. I love the story. And I wanted a respectful adaptation done in live action. And for decades, we didn't get that because I forget the name of the company that had the rights, was playing fast and loose with it. And, there was no hope in the horizon. So when Amazon bought the rights for Wheel of Time, I was pumped. Like, I was excited, thrilled. They had bought the rights to The Expanse, and they did a great job with The Expanse. Like, they really did. I'd never read The Expanse books, but and the Sci-Fi Channel did the first few seasons of The Expanse, but it got too expensive for them. So Amazon took over, and Amazon did a great job with The Expanse. They varied off of the books, because I have read the book since then, and they varied off it at the end, but all in all, I wasn't upset, And I was really under the impression that after the Game of Thrones success and failure, because Game of Thrones really sent a message to Hollywood. They did a fantastic job adapting the books until they ran out of source material. And then after they ran out of source material, it went downhill really fast, as the writers showed. They were great at adapting, but they were horrible at original writing. And yeah, so Game of Thrones, I really had a lot of hope for Wheel of Time because Game of Thrones proved if you respect the source material, follow the source material, the fans will come in droves to watch it. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Game of Thrones had to cut out some characters. They had to shorten some storylines and all that because the books are massive. And I expect the same for Wheel of Time. I knew they couldn't put every page. Sorry, itchy mustache today. They couldn't put every page into the TV series, especially since they only did 8 episodes a season. That was the first mistake I noticed. This show, because of the size... Well, here, 1 second. All right. This is The Wheel of Time. Eye of the World, Book 1. That is a thick book. You can't fit this much into 8 episodes. You just can't. So I knew it was going to have to be cut down, but that's fine. Just stay true to the characters. Stay true to the story. Respect the source material. That's all they had to do. And by episode 1, you knew they weren't going to do that. Episode 1 was an absolute travesty. It really was. I'm going to, full transparency here. I watched 7 episodes of season 1 and I shut it off and I never looked at the show again. Okay. So I read about it online, but yeah, I was done. Like they were shitting all over the source material. They were shitting all over the characters. This TV show had absolutely nothing to do with the books. They borrowed the character names and borrowed some of the locations, and they changed everything else. And to me, that's unforgivable. That's absolutely unforgivable. And yeah, so like I said, I was really pumped when Amazon got the rights, and that really quickly turned to despair. I'm not going to go through every episode I watched. I'll just talk about the first episode. Right off the bat, a Gwen going down a raging whitewater river, which actually isn't in the books. The river isn't even in the books. Like they have two rivers, but these were not whitewater rivers according to the books. And she was going for the women's circle, which in the books is called the knitting circle. It is a women's group for the two rivers, has absolutely nothing to do with the one power. It is just a gossip group, the knitting group. It's the wives and the mothers coming together. It's a group, I don't know how else to explain it. That's all it is. They flex some influence because they are wives and mothers. It has absolutely nothing to do with the one power. So right off the bat, you knew this series was in trouble, because that opening scene, Gwen going down the Whitewater Rapids, was all about her connecting to the one power. So he's changing shit. And by him, I mean her or it or whatever you want to call Raph. I frickin' hate this guy. If this guy was on fire, I would not piss on him to put the fire out. I cannot explain how thrilled I am that not only is he fired from Wheel of Time, he is fired from the God of War series, and he's fired from Amazon. Like, he has been blacklisted by Amazon, and I am thrilled about that. Now, apparently Netflix picked him up for some garbage series that nobody's ever going to watch, because nobody wants to see Rafe's original shit. Like, he keeps taking other people's properties and changing them. And that, again, that's unacceptable. If you adapt somebody else's work, respect it, honor it, follow it. If you think you are such a good writer that you can write your own stuff and people come watch it, then fucking go do that. But he knows he can't do that. Nobody wants to read or watch Rafe's shit. They don't. He's a hack. If he wasn't gay, Hollywood wouldn't even employ him. Sorry, but that's just the God honest truth. So anyway, back to episode 1. It was like, they did the stupid thing with Egwene. Then they did a complete rip-off scene of Moraine and Lan in a hot tub. It was a rip-off from The Witcher. I mean, honestly, I think The Witcher should have sued him right there and then for that scene. But beyond that, the scene made no sense, because Moraine and Lan did not have that type of relationship ever. In all of the books, they never had that type of relationship. There was no flirting. There was no getting naked in front of each other, and no taking baths together. None of that shit ever happened in the books. Lan was her protector. She was the magic, he was the sword. And that's all it was. That was their relationship. And they respected each other. I keep using the word respect because Raph and, what's her name? I always forget this twit's name. I can't find her name now. And like I say, I can never remember her name. But she's the main showrunner for Wheel of Time. And she was fired as well by Amazon over Wheel of Time. So, yeah. So her and Raph, they have absolutely no respect whatsoever for the source material, and they've come out and said it. They've bragged about this. This is like the writers for Netflix, The Witcher, saying we hated the books and we have no desire in telling the book stories. So Henry quit the show in disgust, and now the show's being canceled. Gee, are we seeing a pattern here, people? And mark my words, you can quote me on this. Ring of Power will be canceled at the end of season 3. Ring of Power, The Adventures of Guy Ladriel, is over. And the only reason it's making it to season 3 is the same reason Wheel of Time made it to season 3, is Amazon was stupid enough to sign a contract that guaranteed 3 seasons for both shows. That's just the God honest truth. Yeah, I am thrilled that Wheel of Time, I'm thrilled it's canceled. They turned Rand into a secondary character. Rand is the frickin' hero of the story. He is the main character. Yet they turned him into a bystander. Apparently in season 3, they hinted at turning him gay. Rand's not gay. Never was. Not in any of the books. But neither is Perrin, and that's who apparently they were hinting at turning Rand and Perrin gay with each other. It's like, this was just Raph projecting his own political ideology on people. That's all this was. And this needs to stop. Respect the source material. Honor the source material. Follow the source material. It's not hard, people. Wheel of Time should have been a massive, massive success. And it was. When it launched, all the book fans, all 10 million of them, came in to watch this show with high anticipation. So, Amazon loves to brag about, we had this amazing first episode viewership. Yeah, and then by the end of season 1, they had lost 67% of their viewership. From the end of season 1 to the beginning of season 2, they lost another 50%. And then in season 2, they lost another 50%. So let's do some quick math here. Let me pull out the calculator. There it is. Okay, so let's say 10 million viewers, and they didn't hit the 10 million mark, but nice even number. So we divide 67%. So now we're down at the end of season 1 to 3,300,000 viewers. All right. Then between season 1 and 2, they lost another 50%. So we'll divide that by 2. So now we're down to 1,650,000 people. And then from start of season 1 to start of season 2 to end of season 2, they lost another 50%. So now they're down to 825,000 people from 10 million. That's fact. Now the number, they did not have a 10 million start, so it's even lower than that. But that gives you an idea how massive the viewership drop-off was. They've not released season 3 numbers. What they've done is they said, we had a 88% approval on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, yeah, because you got nobody watching it. The only people left watching it are those that want to watch it. So, of course, you got a positive approval from them. Everyone else left. And that's why the show was canceled, is because everyone else left. You did not have the base viewership to support the cost of the show. And that's on Raph. And that's on the other showrunner, whatever her name is. Because they were pushing special interests, political ideology, rather than just honoring, respecting, following the source material. And that's the history of Wheel of Time. Like I said, it should have been a massive, massive, massive hit. And all they had to do was follow, respect, and honor the source material, and it would have been. Nobody wanted or expected a page-by-page adaptation. That's just not reasonable for the TV format. What they should have done to make Wheel of Time a success. One, nobody should ever hire Raph. He should be blacklisted from Hollywood. Point blank. Kick him out. And same with the other showrunner. Kick her out. Nobody cares about their homoerotic ideology desires. Just follow what's in the books. Simple as that. Very few shows that deviate from the source material succeed, be it a movie or a TV show. Very few. Offhand, the only one I can think of is Starship Troopers, and even that's more of a cult hit than anything else, because it did not follow the book at all, but it was enjoyable all the same. But I can't think of any other shows that changed the characters and storylines and succeeded. Interview of a Vampire failed. Rings of Power, it's failing. The only way Rings of Power is going to succeed, or I shouldn't even say succeed, but survive, is because it's Jeff Bezos' passion project. So he might be more willing to spend money in a losing franchise just because it's a passion project for him and he's the money man. It's kind of like AEW wrestling. It's a horrid product. Nobody watches it, but Tony Khan's father is a billionaire, so Papa Khan says, okay, Tony, you can spend my money on this thing, and that's what Tony does. It loses money. Everybody knows it loses money. And it's just a crap product, but it's a pet project for a billionaire's son. Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. Rings of Power is a pet project for him. So, yeah, it might survive. But if you go by the actual ratings, Rings of Power ends at the end of season 3 when the contract ends. Wheel of Time should have been a massive success. I keep saying it. It really should have been. You didn't need like everyone always said, well, you need casuals to succeed. No, you did not need the casuals for Wheel of Time. You had a built-in audience from the book readers, the book fans. All you had to do was make them happy. That's it. If you kept even 60% of the book fans, you have a massive, massive, massive successful show. Like humongously successful. #1 show. The only things that beat it are sporting events. But they couldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They had to change everything. And they did. They changed everything. This show had absolutely nothing to do with the books beyond the name, the character names, and some of the locations. Everything else got changed. And there is interviews all over the web. I'm not going to show them because it would just take too much time. And frankly, whenever I hear Rafe talk, I want to punch him. I won't lie. Like, I better never meet this guy in person because I will get charged with assault. He brags about destroying the IP. He openly brags about it. I keep posting online one quote that it stuck out to me at the end of season 1. Because I was so frustrated. Like I said, I watched 7 of the 8 episodes and I shut it off. From what I heard, episode 8 was the worst episode of the entire season in season 1. So I missed a travesty, thank God. But he was asked, why did you change so much of the source material? And he laughed in his little girly laugh. And God, do I hate this guy. And this is paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but this is, in essence, very close to what he said. He said, Wheel of Time was written in 1990 by Robert Jordan. Society has changed since then, evolved, grown. I had to change to fit modern society, and it's woke. And that's his word. That's not my word. That is his word. So anyone that wants to yell at me for using the word woke, that's Raph's word. Go yell at him. To embrace our woke mentality of modern day. And that was his justification. And that's what he did for 3 seasons of Wheel of Time, is he wokeified it. He changed everything. He created gay and lesbian relations that didn't exist in the books. He killed, figuratively and literally, any male character. Like I said, Rand is the hero of the Wheel of Time. Moraine is a bit character. I won't lie, she's a very important bit character. But she doesn't even appear in the second book, for crying out loud. She's a bit character. And he made her the focus point. Egwene and Nynaeve, they don't even get, well, Egwene accidentally touches the One Power a few times in book 1, but she has to go to the White Tower and be trained. Nynaeve, she has a block, and for, I think it's 3 or 4 books, she can't touch the One Power because of the block. And the block is a super, super important storyline for her character. She is one of my favorite characters because of how Jordan wrote her. Like, I loved how she finally was able to break through her block with the help of the Wise Ones. Raph just tossed all that away. Just garbage. No, it doesn't happen. She's now the most powerful Aes Sedai in the world, even though she's never been trained. And oh my God. It's just like, it just frustrates me. So I am so happy this show is dead. I really am. So in closing, I want to read an article by Deadline. Wheel of Time canceled by Prime Video after 3 seasons. Exclusive. Prime Video will not be renewing Wheel of Time. Cheer! Woo! Woo! For a 4th season. The decision, which comes more than a month after the season 2 final was released April 17th, followed lengthy deliberations, as often is the case in current economic environment. The reasons were financial, as the series is liked creatively by the streamer's executives. So what? It was like 12 of them. Of course they liked it. As I showed you with the numbers, the math doesn't lie. They lost their entire audience. The remaining audience was not enough to financially support the program. So, of course, it wasn't financially viable. And who cares what the streamer's executives like? They're not the audience. This is part of the problem with modern day Hollywood. You executives are not the audience. You don't get to tell us what we want to watch, what we want to like. We get to tell you. So in the most crude term, speaking to all the executives, dance, monkey, dance. The TV adapt, and just for the record, I don't know what the racial background of any of those executives are, so that is not a racial comment, because I know how the modern day likes to screw up anything people are saying. The TV adaptation of on the book series of Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Oh, Brandon Sanderson, there's another thing. He was hired to keep it close to the book. He found out very quickly he was hired for his name. He was left out of production meetings. He was left out of writing meetings. He was told to shut up and just collect his paycheck. Raph. That was Raph. The TV adaptation of On the Book series by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson, co-produced by Sony Pictures TV and Amazon MGM Studios, is a high-end, pricey fantasy drama, which ushered in the genre on Prime Video, later joined by Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, of which both are collapsing. They're both failing because they're not good products. They don't respect the source material. I mean, I keep saying it. I don't know how often I have to say this. Starring Rosamund Pike, she was actually a very good Moraine. She really was. The problem for her was the writing. She wasn't playing Moraine as per the books. She was playing lesbian lover 105 as per Raph. Her character had nothing to do with what you read in the books. The Wheel of Time got off to a strong start in 2021, which I said. All the book fans came in to watch it. and they all started tuning out. By the 5th episode, majority of book fans had left. I lasted to the 7th episode. As Prime Video's most watched series premiere, so that's episode 1, premiere of the year, and one of the platform's top 5 series launches of all time. Book fans. If they had honored the product, the book fans would have stayed and they would have remained. 3 seasons in, the series has remained a solid performer. False. I showed you the numbers. But its viewership has slipped, with the fantasy drama dropping out of the Nielsen's top 10 original chart after the first 3 weeks of season 3, while staying on the list for the entire runs of the previous 2 seasons. Now, that's a little misleading. It's original. There's not a lot of original stuff coming out anymore. So it's pretty easy to stay in a top 10 nowadays because most original shit is just reality TV, and very few people want to watch that crap either. So being in the top 10 really isn't the bragging point that they try to make it out to be. The Nielsen ratings reflect US viewership, and The Wheel of Time is a global title. It did rank as number 1 on Prime Video in multiple countries with the most recent season. Still, the season 3 overall performance was not strong enough compared to the show's cost, which again is because nobody was watching it, to commit to another season, and the streamer could not make it work after examining different scenarios and following discussions with lead studio Sony TV, sources said. Now, what they're talking about is they tried to sell the product to others' channels. That's what they tried to do. They're doing the same thing with Ring of Power now, is they're trying to sell it to other streamers and networks because they're losing money, but nobody wanted to buy it, because it's a bad frickin' show. With that possibility and the show's passionate fan base, 12 people online is not a passionate fan base. In mind, the season 3 finale was designed to offer some closure. Still, the news would be a gut punch for fans who have been praising the latest season as the season's best yet, creatively. So, I have a friend who watched it with his wife, or his partner, and they liked it. And him and I have had endless discussions about this, because he likes to call me a traditionalist. I don't think I'm a traditionalist. If it's somebody else's work, you respect somebody else's work. It's that simple. I said this before and I'll say it again, if you think you are a good enough writer to create your own original series, then go do it and we'll see. There is a reason Raph has never done that. He's always attached himself to established IPs. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He came in after it was a success. You could honestly say, though nobody's ever actually said it, you could honestly say he was part of the collapse of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., why it ended up dying. Not the whole reason, but, and he didn't have as much power in that show, so he was kind of neutered in that regard. But, you can go back and watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I like, by the way, for the most part, and you can tell where the parts he wrote, because he was doing the same thing there that he did in this show. Raph does not write science fiction, fantasy literature. Raph writes political special interest indoctrination. That's what he writes. Still, the news would come as a gunch, blah, 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 blah. Season 3 ranks 97 on Rotten Tomatoes, up from 86 in Season 2 and 81 in Season 1. Again, if you got nobody watching it, it's easy to get 97 from the very few people remaining to watch. 86, that doesn't surprise me either. By the end of Season 2, they were down under a million, well under a million viewership. Season 1, they must have done this after Season 1, because by the end of Season 1, they'd lost 67% of their viewership. So the only people left around were people that had hope still. 67% of the viewership had already left. So, that's how you get these numbers. If you actually polled the actual people watching the show through the entire season 1, season 2, you get far lower numbers. Well, not season 3 because nobody was watching, or season 2, a huge bulk had left. But season 1, really, 81, that would have been down in the 40s or 30s if they had polled the 67% that left. So, it's just wordplay. It's word salad. That's what they're doing here. So these numbers by Rotten Tomatoes are meaningless. They really are. Prime Video and Sony TV will continue to back the Emmy campaign for the 3rd season. It might win the way Hollywood is, but Emmys are meaningless too. The casting was terrible. It really was. That was the other problem with season 1 is Naive, Egwene, they don't look anything like they're described in the books. Nothing at all. Tom Marilyn, who is a major character and an important character in the books, appeared once in season 1 and then was completely written out. This show was a travesty. No other way to put it. The show was an absolute travesty, and I'm glad it's gone. So anyway, ding dong, the witch is dead. The Wheel of Time is gone. My only hope, deep hope, and I know it's going to take probably 5 years, is that somebody will get the rights and redo it properly. Because again, this show could be a massive, massive, massive success for any studio, even a studio that wants to fork out huge money like Amazon did. All you got to do is respect, honor, and follow the source material. That's it. Nobody wants to see homoerotic fan fiction. We really don't. We want to see the characters and the books that we fell in love with. I keep talking about the homoerotic. Here's the funny part about that. There's gay people in Wheel of Time, and they are presented very respectfully. So they're there. Jordan wrote them very respectfully. There is very empowered women in Wheel of Time books. Jordan wrote them. Jordan wrote every ethnicity, skin color, gender, sexuality. He wrote them strong, powerful, empowering. So there was no reason to change any of this because that already exists in the books. It just didn't fit Raph's vision of a world where 100% of the people are gay. I mean, that's really what he's writing. That's his vision, and the books are not that. You had your gays, you had your straights, you had your bis, you had your women. Some women were powerful warriors. Some women were seductresses. Some women were wise ones and chiefs and leaders and queens. And, even the Aes Sedai, in episode 1, they say, a man or a woman can be the dragon reborn. False. The dragon reborn has to be able to tap into the male half of the one power. Women cannot tap into the male half of the one power, and men cannot tap into the women's half. They're separate, and this is all explained in the books. This was done intentionally, and the downside to the male one power is it drives men crazy. So it has a huge disadvantage to it. It's powerful, but it has a huge disadvantage to it. And again, Raph just to everybody. Nope. Women are more powerful, and men, they lose their shit at the rustle of a skirt and then decide they're gay. And that's how Raph wrote it. And Raph can go fuck himself. Trying not to swear, but seriously, Raph, if you ever see this video, go fuck yourself, you useless piece of shit. So anyway, that's my video. I know I enjoyed venting to get that out of my system. I really hope this does come back in 5 to 10 years and it's treated respectfully, properly, with honor, and they follow the source material. And if they do that, whatever studio gets it will have a massive, massive, massive hit on their hands. I don't know if it'll like that book series is really long, and it's very true in the later half like the back half of the series, things do start to slow down. So I don't know if they will ever get the full series out, but they could get 5 or 6 books out and have, 5 or 6 seasons. The one thing I'll say, and I pray somebody's listening, is if you try to do this content, you can't do 8 episodes. You have to do 16 to 24 episodes a season. I know that's fiscally hard nowadays with how much we overpay actors and Hollywood and everything, but you have to do it that way because there's just too much content in those books to cut it down to 8 episodes. And that was the other thing that drove me nuts about the first season, is you had only 8 episodes to tell this story. Come on. And Raph, being the asshole he is, 4 of his episodes were complete fan fiction that don't appear in any of the books. So really, he only had 4 episodes to try to touch on what's in the book. You can't do that. That's not Wheel of Time. It's not. I don't know what you want to call it. I call it shit, but you can find your own verbiage for it. But yeah, that's not Wheel of Time. And whoever gets the license the next time, do it properly. That's all I'm asking. I'm begging. Do it properly. I love these characters. I love these books. I want to see these books on TV or film, but I only want to see them done properly. If you're a good enough author, I'll buy your book on my own for whatever you write. In other words, I will never buy a Raph book because he's a crappy writer. But, if you're a good enough writer, you don't need to steal somebody's IP to create your own original product. And that's really where it stands nowadays. Rings of Power, Wheel of Time. The other one that really disappointed me was, it was called Legend of the Seeker. It's my second favorite fantasy series. It's based off of a Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. And Wizard's First Rule is one of my favorite fantasy books of all time. I love that book. And they came out, now, they didn't have the budget that Rings of Power and Wheel of Time had, but they also took a lot of liberties and started putting in their own fan fiction and just follow the frickin' books. It's not that hard, people. Follow them, respect them. If you do a good job, look at what happened to the Game of Thrones guys. They were unknown, so they adapted the Game of Thrones books, and those first, I think it was 5 seasons, were so magnificently done that they got a massive Disney contract for Star Wars. And then they ran out of source material and showed they were terrible, terrible original writers. And Disney canceled them, but they still got their money. They still got paid. They still got notoriety. And they're still getting work because those first 5 seasons were spectacular. And that's all you need to do. Honor, respect, follow the books. You will make a name for yourself. That will open up doors so that you can go make your passion projects. And we can see if those passion projects live or die based on your ability. So anyway, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage you to leave a comment. Not only do the comments get us interacting, and I want to hear some comments on this topic, I really do, but it also helps with the YouTube algorithm and getting my videos pushed to a greater audience. So please comment. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Bye.